For everybody saying, I don't have a following, Jaron, you got close to 100,000 followers. Of course, it's easy for you. I didn't start my brand until 2021. I didn't have a following. I would post on my personal Facebook and show deals that we did. And I would network. So I would talk to friends, families, coworkers of mine who are high income earners, high net worth, that have capital. As you make those connections, you realize that money's abundant.
Jaron, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, Brian. Hey, thanks for having me.
Dude, let's talk about the spirit, man. The spirit is the difference. Because you and I both worked in corporate America for the same company. You're the first ex-Cintas employee that I've interviewed on the podcast, brother. So what did you do in Cintas?
You must be a stud. On the other side of this wall behind me is a library. And in that library is The Spirit Makes a Difference. Still sits in my library to this day. Like, what a great book, or maybe not. I don't know. But Cintas was fantastic, dude. So I came out of college, and it was 2013. And so I had a college degree, and there was 3 guys in the management trainee program already, which is where I should have been placed, but they needed somebody to cover a route. So I got put on Route 51. I was 21, 22 years old. And the route sucks. Like, you're in the plan at 4:00 in the morning.
Was it FS or was it uniform?
It was uniform.
That's good. So for people listening, we have 2 routes for Cintas. It was like box trucks. So you have facility services, which means that you're dropping off rags and mats to restaurants, or your uniforms. So you're picking up people's dirty uniforms and dropping them off clean ones.
Yes, exactly. And on the uniform route, I still had some FS stuff. So don't get it wrong. Like, I was changing out urinal cakes. I was changing
shop
out
towels.
Tons of shop towels, which that's not bad. Now, the FS routes, dude, you get into some of the dumpsters behind restaurants, and it's maggots, like literal maggots all over the towels that they use in the kitchen. It's horrendous. But it was terrible in a sense of I was up early every day. The day's usually very long. You're dealing with a lot of small business owners. They're not always the happiest folks because they are having to be very involved with their business. They're working a lot of hours per day. They never learned how to scale up. And so there's a lot of negatives to it. But I don't know about you, but it was fantastic in teaching me about business. Like, it gave me a strong base of business at a young age because I learned how to deal with all different types of customers. I learned how to collect money when they weren't paying. I learned how to sell. You wanted to grow your route, so I learned sales, and it's like customer service, all of it came in one package. And I eventually started transitioning into sales before I got into the medical sales space. But a lot of Jekyll and Hyde, so good, and then some of it was pretty bad.
Yeah, on this podcast, I've never actually bad talked Cintas as a company. I just bad talked like the corporate structure in general, because Cintas was actually wonderful until it wasn't. I sold the uniforms. I was on the opposite end. So I was the one that was going to meet in the companies to convince them to do the shop rags, the mats, and the uniforms. So what I did as a rep that a lot of reps didn't do, and that's what led to my success of being one of the top of the country and diamond level, was I made sure that every single route that was in my zip codes, I was on that route. And I was riding route with that driver. And I was getting to know my drivers. And I was like, all right, 5 a.m., because that's when people leave, is at 5 a.m. for a route. I was like, I'm on the truck with you. Like, first couple of weeks, I'm running a route with you. Let's go. I want to go talk to your customers because you've been delivering to them. I'm going to be helping you pick up scanning dirty pants out of the lockers. I'm going to help you go to the restaurants and everything. So I ran every single route. So I've been there. And I had the bags of towels break and get the maggots on my feet.
Oh, gosh.
At 7 a.m., man. We call them popcorn shrimp. I've been there too, man. So it's been awesome. And I'm over here in Norway. And guys, there's a point to all of this, I promise you. I'm over here in Norway right now. I'm just remembering 3 years ago. As I'm sitting here like on a Tuesday, we're recording this on a Wednesday. I'm like, man, think about where we are today versus where we were before. I was driving industrial parks, door knocking in the sun, in the Georgia heat. I was like, all right, door knock after door knock for like 10, 12 hours a day. And now I'm sitting over here. And so it wasn't that long ago for you either. How long has your investing journey been?
Yeah, so Cintas, I didn't stay long. I escaped and got into.
I was there for 4.5 years. I was there
that's way too long, bro. Way too long. I got in and I did it for about a year, and I was on the route, and I was like, okay, like,
that makes sense though. You were on the route.
Yeah, I was like, screw
this. They had
me
wearing a tie and clean shaven.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was moving into that role but I had a recruiter reach out to me to get into pharmaceutical sales. So then I got into pharmaceutical sales, medical device sales, and really started leveraging my W-2 to invest because at some point, I don't remember the exact date. It was when I was at Centos. I looked around and I love all those guys and they're fantastic people, but I saw there was a lot of older guys who've been doing it for a long time. And I was like, I personally don't want to do this forever. Like,
Position.
yeah, you just see, you're like, bro, I want to be able to wake up every day and do what I want to do. And so for us, the journey actually started. We had a bunch of debt when we got married, my wife and I. Like, I had a bunch of student loan debt, had a truck, wedding ring, all these credit cards. And so we spent, I don't know, 4 or 5 years paying off debt. And then it was like, that was step one for us to freedom. And then step two, when we started investing in real estate, it was in 2018. And that was when it was like, okay, like we got the strong financial foundation. Now let's buy our time back. And we started on that journey in 2018.
Same thing, man. I was in debt and I paid it all off. That's where Dave Ramsey actually makes sense for 90% of the people is there until it doesn't make sense. And then that top 10% activity, you need to start finding other strategies and other methods. So same thing with real estate. So walk us through, before we get started, walk us through where you are today. Where's the portfolio? Where's the cash flow? And then let's start dissecting this. Because people have stuck with us through the maggot stories for 6 minutes.
Yeah, if you made it through the maggot stories, now we're getting into the fun stuff. So we scaled up my first 2 years, or excuse me, my first year, 2018, we bought 2 properties, I believe it was. And then I quickly realized, at least the strategy for me, I was like, okay, the way I did this is I put 20% down and rehabbed the houses with my own money. Now I had a lot of capital locked up. And so I was like, okay, I got to figure out a different way, like other than just using my own money to buy these properties. And so we figured out how to buy undervalued properties with somebody else's money, add value to them through rehab, and then refinance through the bank, get all that money back. And so when I learned how to do that, it was like, holy crap, like we can scale now. And so we bought 19 units in 2019. And then we bought, I don't know how many more in 2020. And then 1 in 21, took a break. I was building this brand. And then I don't know if we bought 4 or 5 last year, and we're already on number 4 or 5 this year. And so I am probably at today, probably down to 15 doors because I offloaded. I had a 9-unit mobile home park that somebody paid me double what I paid for it. I had an Airbnb that I bought for $287. Somebody paid me $460. So the market was hot. People wanted to pay a premium, so I offloaded stuff. So we're probably at about 15 doors as it sits today, and we are on a rampage right now. I am just adding ridiculously. Like anytime I find a good deal, we're pouncing on it. So
really, that's contradictory to what you would think, especially in today's climate. And is this with single family or is this with multifamily? Because right now I see a lot of people slowing down in single family.
So this is single family, dude. We are
really?
Yeah, we are absolutely crushing. I always say that if you know how to buy, if you can find good deals on the front end, you can make it make sense in any market. And so what we're doing is, I would say the average property that we buy in B to C class neighborhoods. So the after repair value, after we fix them up, they're worth about 250 ish. Some may be 230, some may be 290, but call it 250 on average. We're getting these under contract anywhere from 100 to 125, 150. And so then depending on what the purchase price is, we will either flip them or we will burr them and put them in the portfolio and keep adding more. And so what we're seeing is homes are sitting for longer now. It used to be they were sitting for a day or two. Now they're sitting 30, 45, 50 days. And so we're going in, we're watching those. These are the on market deals. People think, oh, you can only get deals off market. Yeah, off market deals are great, but I've probably bought 90% of my portfolio with deals just sitting on the market. And so
no way. On the MLS right now?
On the MLS. I can tell you too, y'all can go look them. I just closed on 115 Roberts Drive, Anderson, South Carolina. It was listed at 150. I bought it for 105. Literally closed Monday. What's today? Wednesday. So 2 days ago, the ARV there is 250. So absolutely crushed that one. Closed on one a couple months ago, 150, ARV 280. So and these are all listed. And so we just go in, I run my numbers. The formula I use is ARV times 70% minus rehab tells me what I need to buy it at. So I usually make my offer there because I know, hey, that's going to make me money. And then I leverage the inspection report to knock more off. So the Roberts Drive I just told you about, it was listed at 150. I knew I needed to get it at 125. They accepted that offer, ran the inspection report, knocked another 20 grand off the deal, locked it up at 105. And so we're finding these deals left and right, literally just sitting on Zillow. And I've been doing it for 5 years now.
Jaron, you know what pisses me off, man? I hear all the time. So I've been DMing, me and my team have been DMing, I don't know, 50 to 100 people a day off my Instagram account now that we have 170,000 plus followers. Is okay, let's talk to these people. Let's see what they're running into. Like, what problems are you running into? And we're seeing it over and over again. And a lot of people in Action Academy community too, our thing is you've got these people that are saving up. A lot of people are saving up, call it $30,000, $50,000, $80,000 in cash. They've been saving it up for a year, 2 years. Like, they've done the thing and they're really proud of themselves. And they're like, okay, cool. It's time to buy a rental property now. And then they're like, but I can't find it. I keep getting outbid. I can't find anything that cash flows. I can't find anything. And they're sitting and waiting for the next thing. Oh. And so for me, the advice that I've been given is saying, hey, look off market. Like, let's not, when the going gets tough, like, get the hell off the MLS and let's get into the off market deals and start doing some marketing. But that's why it's surprising to me that you're saying, guys, sup? Are you right even, here's the question that's coming to my mind that I want you to riff on. Are they even making any offers? Because what you just said is, I think, the difference. I think what people are doing is they're looking at these deals on the MLS and they're saying, oh, nope, number doesn't work. Price doesn't work. Can't do it. And you're looking at the same deal, same MLS, and you're saying, oh, this doesn't work. Let's multiply that by 0.7 and let's minus the rehab cost, and that's what I'm going to offer.
Boom. And tell them why I'm offering. So, hey, this is why I'm offering it. I'm an investor. It have to buy this to make sense. Let me know. I can close in 10 to 14 days.
Yeah, exactly. So why do you think people aren't offering? Why do you think people aren't doing this? Why are people getting stuck here?
Most people don't know how to buy real estate, and I don't mean that in a bad way. You understand, like, you don't get comfortable with the game until you've done it a while. And so if you got these people who are new to investing, they don't understand that. They feel bad for offering low. They're not really 100% sure maybe how to analyze. I think there's a plethora of reasons they get caught up on, like, which type of property should I look for? Do I go to single family? Do I go to quadplex? Do I go to a small multifamily? Should I be looking for commercial? People are talking about storage units and Airbnb. And I think people just get spaghetti brain. I think that's part of it. It's, bro, just focus in on what you're wanting to do, learn it, know what your numbers have to be, know the formula that you have to apply to every property that says, hey, this is a good deal, this isn't. And then once you apply that formula, make your offer, shoot your shot. You're going to get told no. You're going to get outbid. That's okay. It's a volume game. And if you'll start doing that, even just on the own market deals, off market's a totally different game. Just on the own market deals, you'll start locking stuff up. I'm dead serious. I've done the majority of my portfolio with things just sitting there on the market, and there's an opportunity there, because what you find is there's a lot of people, like the last one I just bought. The lady's husband passed away 2 years ago, and she moved out 2 years ago and just hadn't done anything with the house, and finally decided to list it. She needs to get rid of that. It's hasn't been taken care of. It's overgrown. The house smells moldy. There's actually mold in the house. There was a little leak, so there's some water in the basement. It just went bad. And there's opportunities like that everywhere. I think the key is knowing where to look. I think folks aren't sure where to start. I always say there's 5 areas that you got to be good in real estate if you want to be successful. It's choosing a market, generating leads, analyzing those leads, funding the deals, and then managing rehab and your tenants. And a lot of people never can get to step 1 where they actually choose a market because they don't know how. They don't have the right people in their corner. And if you're not looking in the right places, you're not going to find the deals that you need. And last thing, and I'll shut up and let you talk, but stop trying to compete against the everyday person. Stop looking at houses that the masses would buy. If you're looking at houses on the market that are already in good shape and in good condition, you're not going to get a good deal. Sorry, it's just not going to happen. So you got to go find those properties that are still in those good areas, but they need love, because the average person can't buy that home. They can't get a loan for it. Number one, they can't afford to rehab it. And so that's where you come in, make money, but then also you uplift your community, because if you didn't do it, what's going to happen to that home?
Yeah, profits come from problems. The bigger the problem, bigger the profit. Over and over again, we still see this. So yeah, man, the bigger the problem, the bigger the profit, right? And so problems don't go away. They just look different. So we're actually seeking to solve other people's problems so that they can be able to, like, so that's where the profit comes from, is that delta, is us solving a headache for people. So it's funny that you say that. I love the 5 steps that you just said. I would feel like choosing the market would be the easiest one. Why are people getting stuck at choosing a market?
I think that they just want to look in their backyard, which is, I think that's a lot of people's first choice, and there's nothing wrong with that being your first choice. But think about how many people live in a very expensive area that don't make sense for rental properties. You live in the Austin, Texas, San Francisco, New York, Atlanta, the big cities. It's hard for it to make sense. And so they're looking around, and every deal they find, quote unquote, it doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't make sense because your market does not lend itself to cash flowing rental properties. If you have a bunch of cash, like raised a lot of cash, and you can afford not to care if you're cash flowing at all, can just bank on future appreciation, which is a very risky game. Sure, go buy in those expensive markets. But if you want to be a solid investor who gets cash flow and appreciation over time, you got to choose those markets where they work. And for me, it's always been the Southeast and the Midwest. And there are tons of opportunities there when it comes to the long-term rental game.
How I think about it is, if I were to go start investing in the Midwest, the first thing that I would start with is maybe going and networking and finding, do I have a competitive advantage here? Do I have boots on the ground over here? Do I have someone that can run the renovations? Do I have contacts here? And then I would start from there and then be able to pick a market kind of using those parameters. Would you agree with that? Or is there anything you would add if you were looking for an out-of-state market?
100%. And you may not have that. I think it's best. You're 100%. It's best start where, if you do have that, if you got a friend, family, acquaintance, heck yeah, dig all into that. But there may be times to where you have to build that out. You got to find the investor friendly agent. You got to find the contractor. You got to find the property manager, the lenders, and all that. That's something I do for the people that I work with. Like, we've removed those roadblocks and done it for them, because a lot of people, they get held up on that. And it's, you have to, if you don't have somebody doing it for you like we do, then you have to go do it yourself. It depends how successful you want to be at this game. Do you want to buy real estate or not? If you can't buy it where you live, then you got to go buy it somewhere else. And if you let the roadblocks and the friction keep you from doing it, then you just have to surrender and say, I'm never going to own real estate. And then you have to say, I'm not going to free my future. And if that's what you want, great, then give up. But if you want what's on the other side of actually going through a little bit of the hard at first, because I would say, you tell me, I think that's probably the hardest part, is building out those team members. At least it has been for me. But then once you have that and you've got your systems in place, then it just goes to, hey, let's make offers on deals. And then I've got this team lined up to do everything else for me.
Yeah, anxiety just comes from a lack of clarity, because it's just an overwhelm of options. So you see all these different options and all these different things to do, and you're trying to figure out which one of these things that you want to pursue, right? Over and over again.
Sorry, you broke up again. You broke up again. All I heard was anxiety comes from a lack of clarity. So if you want to start there.
Yeah, dude, it's pissing me off. Like, we're both fuzzy now. Now I'm like, we should have done Zencastr.
It won't be fuzzy.
I know, but it ruins the flow.
I know.
Cool. Anxiety. So, yeah, edit. So anxiety comes from a abundance of options. So you have too many options, too many ways to go, too many paths to climb the mountain, so that you don't start climbing. So Jay Scott gave me some great advice before. And for people that don't know Jay, he's been on the podcast a couple of times. He's a great investor. And he said, we only do one new at a time. And I thought that was really cool. He goes, if we're going to do what we're not going to do, a recipe for disaster is picking a new market with a new partner with a new asset class all at the same time. Because we do one new at a time. So if we're going to do a new market, we're going to do the same asset class, the same strategy, and we already have a partner. So then we'll do a new market. Because if we're going to do a new asset class, we're going to make sure it's in our backyard. We do one new at a time. I thought that was great advice.
Genius.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you're saying. So another thing I want to hit on, which is roadblocks that I've seen people running into, is you said that you made the pivot to private investors relatively quickly. You came to that point where you said, hey, okay, I've bought these couple of properties with my own capital. Now it's time to use private money to rehab. And you did the BRRRR strategy, which is very popular. Everyone that listens to the podcast knows the BRRRR strategy. Yet I'm DMing all these people, and I'm talking to all these people, and a lot of them are having problems with finding and going about the process of getting private lenders. And to me, that's insane, because the general macro answer is post about what you're doing, and that's it. But I want to go into the details with you, because I just have 100 DMs right now that are asking me, hey, like, why can't I find private lenders? How do I do this? How do I approach people? And so there's got to be a more formal process than me just saying, hey, post about it. Because that's what I do and it works for me. But there's got to be other ways.
There doesn't though. There doesn't have to be other ways.
That's all I do. That's all I do. I just post about what I'm doing. I can't tell you how many DMs I get a day of saying, "Hey, I've got capital if you got deals."
Yep. And for everybody saying, I don't have a following, Jaron, you got close to 100,000 followers. Brian, you got whatever, 175,000 followers. Of course, it's easy for you guys. When I didn't start my brand until 2021. So this whole Finance Cowboy brand, I didn't have a following. I would post on my personal Facebook and just show deals that we did. And I would network. So I would talk to friends, families, coworkers of mine who are high income earners, high net worth, that have capital, and ask them if they want to be partners. Also going to local real estate meetups. Guys, here's the deal about funding, okay? Finding the deal, which once you learn how to do that, I personally don't think that's very hard anymore. I can see where it is for people who are just starting, but it's harder. The deal, in my opinion, is harder than the funding, because as you grow into this space and you make those connections, you realize money's abundant. There's a lot of people who have a lot of it and they don't want to necessarily invest in real estate, but they want to return. And it's a very low risk, low friction investment for these private investors to say, hey, you need $100,000 for a purchase and 50 for rehab. Great. Let's do it. Where do I sign up? And then they got the house as collateral. Like, what's the loss for them? And then they got their money on a savings account, which was earning nothing. Now it's earning what, 4%, or they can invest with me and make 12% and get that money back in 3 to 6 months. And the thing is, you don't have to have a bunch of these at first. Just get one. One will change your life. That will change your life, and you can expand on that one, because I promise you guys, you convince somebody to give you money one time for a deal and you pay them back with interest, they are going to blow you up. It's like you're Pablo Escobar. I don't know if I should say that on a podcast, but you've given them something that is in high demand and they don't want to stop doing it.
They're addicted. You got the good stuff.
That's exactly right. And I think that's the biggest key, is show people what you're doing, tell people that you do it, network with folks. And then there's different strategies that you can use as well. You're saying, what if I haven't done a deal and I can't get anybody to private lend to me? Okay, let's look at some other strategies we have. We could use a hard money lender instead of a private money lender, which I use a lot of time. Hard money lender is going to lend you, call it 90% of a purchase price and 100% of rehab. So all you got to do is come up with 10%. So save the 10% for the down payment, or go find a private lender who will lend you that 10%. Instead of going and asking a private lender for the entire purchase and rehab amount, which could be a lot of money for the first time with them working with you. Hey man, I need $15,000 to get to this closing table. Would you lend it to me? I'll pay you 12% interest. It's amortized. It's a year loan, and let them get their feet wet that way. Or you use a HELOC and then bring in a private lender, or just use your HELOC, or use a HELOC in hard money. Dude, the opportunities are endless. The key to bring this back in, the key is finding those undervalued deals that we can buy, whether it's our money, HELOC, private, hard, combination of any of those, rehab. So we're going to force appreciate them immediately, and then refinance them with a small local bank on the back end to get that check that's going to pay all that money back. That's the whole goal that I've used. I'm not saying it's the only way to invest. I think it's the best way to invest, because you can buy, rehab, refinance, get your firepower back. So you got all your capital back. You own this property with little to no money in the deal, and then you just do that over and over and over again. Because in my mind, what I've experienced is, yeah, your cash flow may not be as high as it would be if you put 20, 30% down, but wealth, life-changing wealth, comes from, in my opinion, equity over time. Cash flow is amazing. It can help expedite freedom. It can cover expenses. It can work as a defensive measure, but wealth comes from, I owe this much, this property's worth this much, and I have 50 of them. And
and then the argument could be made, 50 paid off properties is pretty freaking lethal.
Yeah.
Do we really need 9,000 units when you have 50 paid off single family houses?
Think about this.
That's Brian. A great life.
What if you bought 20 in 5 years? All right. You bought 20. That's what, 4 a year? Is my math right? You bought 4 a year.
You're doing great, bud.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's South Carolina education there. But let's say year 5, you pay off the first 2 you bought. So now you have 18 units. And each of those, I'm just throwing random numbers out there, each of those had $60,000 in equity in them. So you sell them. After everything, you take home $100,000. Just throwing numbers out. Now you have 18 units, but you have $100,000 before you pay taxes. You can live off that $100,000, or if you need more, sell 3 properties. I'm just using this as an example. Then guess what you could do? BRRRR and replace those 2 properties. without having to lose any of that money that you just sold and brought in. So now you're back to 20 properties, and then you're on the rotation for next year. Do the same thing next year, sell 2 properties, then replenish them for BRRRR. And now you're on this cycle, and you can live on. And that's just one example. You could also refi them. You could 1031 them. There's so many different ways to access that equity without even paying taxes. But when you have that spread and you have that wealth, puts you in a pretty good position.
Yeah, so a couple different ways I want to take this, but first I will say I think it's funny that we get stuck at the finding the deal and the funding the deal parts when those are relatively simple. I'm not saying they're easy, guys. I'm not saying they're easy. They're just simple. The hard part is actually the rehab. Yeah. Like that's the hard part, and that's the part that nobody's concerned about for some reason. Like everyone gets stuck at which market should I invest in? How do I find deals? I can't find a capital partner. That's a 10-minute YouTube video for all of that. And I know that you guys think it's supposed to be more difficult than it is, but that's the entire process. It's the rehab that's the rough part. And that's the one that you need to get right, because that's what's going to directly kill your cash flow or keep you in the game. That's for another podcast. I actually want to push on you for a little bit here. So single family and cash flow is not normally what I found to be in the same sentence, especially lately. So now that I've had single family, I just sold all my single family. And now I don't think I'm ever going to buy single family again unless it's like a primary residence or it's an Airbnb where I can use the Airbnb rule to do bonus depreciation, all that good stuff for taxes. I'm going to go into multifamily and commercial, specifically commercial. That's going to be my next move. And after doing hundreds and hundreds of these interviews, that's where I find the real wealth, the real cash flow to be. And from what I've heard and validated over and over again, it's very, do single family properties truly actually cash flow unless they're a short-term rental? So I want to let you riff on that, because I did co-living, and yes, it cash flowed, and I did all the CapEx and everything. But then you have an eviction, and then all of a sudden you have a $12,000 bill. Then your septic is up, and then when it rains, it pours, and even your CapEx that you are putting away, you're like, okay. So what's your ideas about going to single family? I've only done a handful, but this is just from what I've heard over every single interview.
Real estate. Like you've been in the game. You've bought the deals, you've had it. That's where you mentioned this earlier. Focus on one thing. Okay. And I spend a lot of time helping the newer investor. So the people who haven't bought, or they've only got a few properties, they haven't been in the game long at all. I think when you're starting out, and I'll talk about why I like single family even for experience too, but I think when you're starting out, the easiest way to buy property is single family.
Agreed. Especially owner occupant.
Exactly. I'm talking about even if you're buying investment properties. Think about it. For the newbie investor, they don't have to raise a bunch of capital. If you're going to do these big commercial deals, you're usually having to raise a decent number of capital. You're going to have to syndicate. You're going to have to bring other people in. Not all the times, but a lot of times. But I love single family because, number one, they're easy to get loans for. Banks lend to single family homes all the time. So it's very simple, especially if you have a W-2. I know a lot of your listeners have a W-2. They're loanable. So it's going to be so easy to go to a bank and get a loan for a single family home. They're easy to analyze. So when you're evaluating large commercial deals, it's a totally different game. It's in the same ballpark, but you're looking at NOIs, you're looking at cap rates. But when you're looking at single family home and residential property, you're looking at what is the price per square foot that other homes in this area have sold for in this condition. And if you give me any property within 3 minutes, I can tell you what it's worth, because I can look on Zillow and look at recently sold homes. So it's very easy to know what they're worth. And then the tenants that you get as a new investor, I think I don't want to say they're not better people, but sometimes they'd be higher quality. Think of the person who's moving into an apartment compared to moving into a house. Person in an apartment probably is going to be there for a shorter amount of time. Then they're going to move on. You're going to have that turnover cost. Where a lot of times when somebody comes into a home or a house, they'll make it their home. Now, if you're buying in terrible areas, totally different subject. Don't buy in terrible areas. But if you're buying in B to C class neighborhoods, they're going to make it their home. And so you generally have better tenants. And then when I look at the exit strategy, when you go to sell a single family home, not only can you sell it to another investor if you want to, but you can sell it to the entire general population. What's the American dream? To own your own home. And so you've just acquired a property that now appeals to the masses. You look at the Amazons, the Microsofts, the Apples of the world, they have products that appeals to the masses. And when you do that, I feel like you give yourself a good chance of being successful. And so is that the only thing that you should ever invest in? No, but I think when you're learning and you're building a personal portfolio, I think those single family homes can get you to that freedom. I know they can. And then if you want to expand as you get savvy, as you build your brand, as you build your name, as you can raise more capital, you learn how to analyze deals better. You want to go buy a 50-unit apartment complex, 100-unit apartment complex, storage building, boutique hotel, go do it. But you are making it harder on yourself if you start there, especially as the general
I
partner
agree.
in these deals. And so going back to your initial question, do I think they can cash flow? Yeah, 100%. I think they can cash flow. When you burr, you're going to knock down cash flow. If I buy a single family home straight up, 20% down, rehab it with my own money, I can cash flow 5, 7, $900 a month. If I'm burring, I may break even. I may get $100 in cash flow. I may get $200 a month in cash flow. And so you're not going to have that big cash flow like you would if you buy straight up or if you go into the multifamily space. But going back to my point previously, if you have that W-2 and that high income and you're loanable, I think it's huge to stack properties at the beginning. I just really, the faster you can stack them, we got to 21 in 2 years, you're going to see a change in your life. So within 2.5 years, I think we had become millionaires. And then a year and a half after that, compound interest had done its thing, and we were worth over 2 million because we just stacked single families on top of single families. So you may take a hit on the cash flow, but you're going to have that equity that's going to change your life on the back end too. So that to say, they're both fantastic. There's nothing wrong with commercial at all. I invest in funds that buy commercial real estate, and there'll probably be a day where I syndicate some of them. But for the person starting out, I think, man, it's hard to beat the residential space.
Agreed. And it's all about risk mitigation, because it's like, it's better for you to come up to the plate and get on base instead of trying to swing for a grand slam at your first at bat. Let's get on base. Let's get a couple things. So let's have fun now, dude. Let's let it loose. Let's let it loose a little bit. So what's next for you? You've got like the 20 some odd, 15. You said you offloaded some. I'll walk you through my strategy super quick. I just sold my single family because I built the brand and I built my own business now, actually my community, which is like my life's passion, life's purpose. This is what I wake up in the morning on fire to do. I don't have to fix toilets and replace roofs for this business. So I'm all in on this business. I sold my single family. I've got a 3-year runway of cash that I'm sitting on right now. And I'm going to continue building up the cash flow of my online brand and my online business and then going into 2024, I'm going to start putting that into commercial and going into commercial properties. I'm eyeballing industrial. That's what I'm looking at right now. So, and that would be with multiple operating partners that I would want to JV with. So what I'm wanting to do, if I could wave a magic wand in 2024, I see a lot of distress in multifamily and I see a lot of distress in commercial. I want to partner up with 2 or 3 operators that have been in the commercial space. I want to put like $500,000 or to $1 million of my own money, my own cash with them. And us 3 go down together and get like a $6 million thing. That's way more fun.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's a great strategy.
And then after that's just the capital allocation. What we're really going to do is we're going to start buying businesses. That's what I want to do. Yeah. I love businesses, man. I want to buy up all these businesses. We have this quote that I figured out as I've been here in Norway, and it's, we unlock entrepreneurs. That's what we do. I don't think entrepreneurs are created. I think they're unlocked. You're either an entrepreneur or you're not. Most people aren't, and that's okay. But if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are. And you're a square peg trying to fit into a round hole over and over again until you finally get to a point where you stop trying to fit in the hole. And you're like, okay, I am what I am. So we want to unlock entrepreneurs on the front end through our education and through this podcast and through free content, and unlock entrepreneurs on the back end that are operating these businesses that don't want to operate the businesses anymore. And they want to be free to go live their life. They don't want to run this business anymore, and their kids don't want to take it. So we're going to buy it. So that's what our entire strategy is. So that's the path to the 8 to 9 figure in the next 20 years. That's what we're doing.
A solid path. Dude, you can make so much money buying businesses. I think there's probably, you got to have good systems in place to know what you're doing. But once you build those out, buy them, have a good operator for each of them, and go rock it. And that's
just people.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is right now, I'm already like looking 5 years in the future. I'm saying, okay, who are the seats that we want to have in place that are like, and I don't know what parts of this I'm going to leave in or take out, but I want to talk to you, and this is a good place to segue back in if I do, but I want to talk to you about brand, because you're a finance cowboy on Instagram, which for somebody that has no idea about branding or anything, you're like, what the hell? But no, it's so cool, like, to watch these different accounts and on Instagram, on Twitter, wherever have you. you get so much deal flow, so much opportunity from these accounts. So talk about the brand and talk about the account, because this is the most important part, I think, going into the next 5 to 10 years, is having a brand of some sort.
It's huge. I ran into it by accident,
Froze.
but it's blown up now, and to an extent there's people who are a lot larger than I am, obviously, but it's big enough to where it's impacted my life. And I would encourage anybody and everybody listening to this, start a personal brand. It's very easy to do. Literally, you can start with an Instagram account and just document what you do, what's your passion, talk about what you like to talk about, share your experiences, and you can pivot. When I first started, I talked a lot about personal finances. I would mix that and real estate in, but the market pushed me to, hey, we want to hear more about your real estate stuff. And so I went all in talking about real estate stuff. And you just get on there and just fill it out, and then go with the niche that you love and that the market wants to hear from you, and just share your story, share your expertise. And what'll happen is you'll start resonating with people, you'll start connecting with people, and then opportunities open up galore. For us, we're able to coach. We have our community where we teach people, we strictly work on residential real estate and teach them how to invest in real estate. We're able to partner with other brands to get their messaging out. We have affiliate partners who products that I use that I can share. There's so many different opportunities. You talked about doing commercial and jumping into some bigger projects as you go. That's opportunities on our end, because a lot of these guys who operate these big commercial deals, they need help raising funds. Guess who
Yep.
can raise funds? This guy
This
who reaches
guy.
millions of people per month. And so there's just endless opportunities. And you talk about private lenders. I had a call this morning with a guy networking. All right, Brian, networking. Met him at Bigger Pockets conference last week. He followed up with me today. We talked on the phone. He wants to lend to me private money for my deals here. Just another lender in my corner, because of the brand I built and because of networking. And it's absolutely huge. And I would encourage everybody. It's so easy to start. Just start putting content out, shoot a video, a reel of yourself. You can type it on Twitter and screenshot it, and just tell what you know and what you love, and see where it goes.
Yeah, just share what you're doing. I think people overcomplicate it, because you're gonna suck for like 100 videos. Like, you just are. So, and people are, yeah, and it's just so you just gotta post what you're doing, share the struggles, share what you're going through. Be like, hey, this renovation is off by $20,000. Here's where I messed up.
Yep.
Hopefully, this will help you guys not mess up, and people will reward you with attention. And then you're going to all of a sudden have your pastor reach out. You're going to have your high school math teacher reach out and say, hey, I've been wanting to invest in real estate. Like, I see you're doing that. I've got 200,000 sitting in my 401k. Can you use that? Yes, sir, I can.
Yeah.
It's really that easy. I don't understand. I don't understand the friction.
Yep. You just have to do it. The friction is people don't, the imposter syndrome, scared to put yourself out there, because it can feel tough. Like, people are going to make comments, and they're going to see your stuff, and they're going to make fun of you sometimes. But if you stick with it, what happens is they go from giving you a hard time and asking you, what are you doing? To then it flips to, hey man, how do I do what you're doing? And it's interesting to see that change. And then you're like, all right, am I going to be a nice guy here and open my doors? Or am I going to say, that man was clowning on me a couple of years ago. Good luck. Kick it to the curb. And so obviously you don't want to be like that, but things happen.
It's never personal. Like, for the most part, even if it is personal, the person and they're dogging on you, which I ran into too, it's still, it's an insecurity they have in them.
Yeah.
It's not about you. It's just you're doing something and you're having the balls to go do something that they never could, and they are aware of that.
Your success reminds them of the dreams they never chased.
Bingo. Man, before we go, I want to hit on a quote that you told me that I really pay now, play later. What is this?
So my dad told me this all growing up when I was a kid. He's like, all right, son, you can either pay now or play later, or you can play now, but you're going to have to pay later. Essentially, the dues are going to have to be paid at some point. So you decide you want to pay them on the front end, or you want to deal with the heartache and pay for them on the back end. And I have a podcast like you do, and I'm able to talk to a lot of smart people, like a lot of people who are very wealthy and they've had a lot of success. And one of the main things that I hear from everybody, because I keep a notepad of what are the themes that I hear. One of them that relates to this saying is delayed gratification. That's what it is, delayed gratification. And if you can do work without seeing immediate results and keep going, Most people can't do that. It puts you in what we call the 1%. And what happens is eventually you have a breakthrough and you have the success and you reach the dreams that you set out to achieve and you have the life that you've always wanted to create. But it is hard. That's why the saying is pay now, play later, because there's some paying. You got to pay some dues. You got to go through some hard times. There's days, even now, on my entrepreneurial journey, dude, compared to being a W-2 employee doing sales, yeah, you'd have bad days, but it's like, bro, you're just doing one thing. But there's days today, like where it's like, hey, I'm down in the dumps. We don't have the leads coming in that I want for this week, or
Same.
projects going too
This
long.
entire month. This entire
Yeah,
month has been like
exactly.
that with everything for everyone. Like, and
Yep.
then the algorithm's down. All of a
Oh
sudden,
my
you're
gosh,
all of
bro,
a
the
sudden,
algorithm.
dude, you're posting the same video, like, and all of a sudden, maybe you reach 3 million people, and then now you're hitting 300,000, and you're like,
On a good day.
you're like, what just
Yep.
happened?
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, dude, it's a whole crazy, but we can go on a tangent on that. Man, where can people find you? Where can people follow you? Where can people find out more about what you do?
Yep. So one of the best things I think that we offer is a free community, a real estate group on Facebook, realestatewithjaron.com. Realestatewithjaron.com. That's a great place to hang out with us. And then obviously on social media, so Instagram at Finance Cowboy, YouTube Finance Cowboy, TikTok, I think it's at The Finance Cowboy. Somebody stole my name. And then
Spicy.
Twitter, Finance Cowboy. I know. I need to go like chase them down. But yeah, check me out, man. I'd love for you guys to come into my world and help you out however I can.
Heck yeah, man. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, buddy.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
Guys, it's been Brian and Jaron with the Action Academy Podcast, signing off.